So people ask me all the time as a movie columnist because on screenshots we're going to talk about today, when did I first find out something about Jaws? Well, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, to my memory, they started showing ads for Jaws all the way back in the 1975 NHL playoffs. I do distinctly remember an ad showing up on CBC during a Buffalo Sabres Montreal Canadiens game. Now, it created a summer blockbuster, although it was supposed to be a Christmas 74 release. Filming delays because of editing in different categories, especially with the shark, delayed it. But Universal, who had heavy faith in the movie, spent $1.8 million at the time marketing Jaws, including an unprecedented $700,000 on national TV spot advertising, mostly in Canada and the States. The media blitz included about 24 30-second advertisements airing each night on primetime network TV between June 18th to 75 and the film's opening 2 days later. But again, it showed up in Canada, spot ads as early as May of the year. Beyond that, in description of film industry scholar Cyril Kochberg, Universal devised and coordinated a highly innovative plan for the picture's marketing. As early as October 74, Daryl Zanuck and Brown, the co-producers, and Benchley, the writer, hit the television and radio talk show circuit to promote the paperback edition of the novel and the forthcoming film. The studio and publisher Bantam agreed on the title logo that would appear in both the paperback and all the advertising for the film, like that distinctive font. The centerpieces of the joint marketing strategy were John Williams' theme and a poster image featuring the shark approaching a lone female swimmer. The poster was based on the paperback's cover and had the same artist, Bantam employee Roger Castell. The Singer Advertising Agency spent 6 months designing the poster. Principal Tony Seiniger explained that no matter what we did, it didn't look scary enough. He ultimately decided that you had to actually go underneath the shark so you could see his teeth. Now, more merchandise was created to take advantage of the film's release. In '99, Graham Turner wrote that Jaws was accompanied by what was probably the most elaborate array of tie-ins, including a soundtrack album, T-shirts, plastic tumblers, a book about the making of the movie, the book the movie was based on, beach towels, blankets, shark costumes, toy sharks, hobby kits, iron-on transfers, games, posters, shark tooth necklaces, sleepwear, water, pistols, and more. The Ideal Toy Company, for instance, produced a game in which the player had to use a hook to fish out items from the shark's mouth before the jaws close. Now, the glowing audience response to a rough cut of the film appeared at 2 test screenings in Dallas on March 26, 75, and one in Long Beach on March 28, along with the success of Benchley's novel and the early stages of Universal marketing campaign, generated great interest among theater goers, facilitating the studio's plan to debut Jaws at hundreds of cinemas simultaneously. A third and final preview screening of a cut incorporating changes inspired by the previous presentations was held in Hollywood on April 24th. After Universal Chairman Lou Wasserman attended one of the screenings, he ordered the film's initial release, planned for a massive total of many 900 theaters, to be cut down, declaring, I want this picture to run all summer long. I don't want people in Palm Springs to see the picture in Palm Springs. I want them to have to get in their cars and drive to see it in Hollywood. Nonetheless, the several hundred theaters that were still booked for the opening represented was then an unusually wide release. At the time, wide openings were associated with movies of doubtful quality, not uncommon on the exploitation side of the industry. They were customly employed to diminish the effect of negative reviews and word of mouth. There have been some recent exceptions, including the re-release of Billy Jack and the original release of the sequel to Trial of Billy Jack, the Dirty Harry sequel Magnum Force, and the latest installments in the popular James Bond series. Still, the typical major studio release at the time involved opening at a few big city theaters, which allowed for a series of premieres. Distributors would then slowly forward prints to additional locales across the country, capitalizing on any positive critical or audience response. The outsized success of The Godfather in '72 had sparked a trend towards wider releases, but even that film had debuted in just 5 theaters before going wide in the second weekend. Now, on June 20th, 1975, Jaws opened across North America in 464 screens, 405 in the States, and 55 in Canada. I think there was 1 or 2 in New Brunswick before the game came to my hometown theater in Paramount, in Campbellton, New Brunswick, the Paramount. The coupling of the broad distribution pattern with the movie's then ever rare national TV marketing campaign yielded a release method virtually unheard of at the time. A month earlier, Columbia had done something similar with a Charles Bronson thriller Breakout, though that film prospects for an extended run were much slimmer, and it's today a common misconception that Jaws was the first to use an ad saturation strategy. Universal President Sid Sheinberg reasoned that nationwide marketing costs would be amortized at a more favorable rate per print relative to slow-scale release. Building on the film's success, the release was subsequently expanded on July 25th to nearly 700 screens, and on August 15 it moved to more than 950. Overseas, distribution followed the same pattern, with extensive TV campaigns and wide releases. In Great Britain, for instance, Jaws opened in December at more than 100 theaters. For its 40th anniversary, again, it was re-released with the same format. Now, the box office opened to a record $7 million weekend, when normally ticket prices were $3 to $4, and grossed a record $21 million in 10 days, recouping its full production costs. It grossed $100 million in its first 49 days from 954 play dates. In just 78 days, it overtook The Godfather as the highest-grossing film in the North American box office, sailing past that picture's earnings of $86 million. It became the first film to earn $100 million in U.S. theatrical rentals. It spent 14 consecutive weeks as the number one film in the States. Its initial release ultimately brought in $123 million. Theatrical re-release in 76 and summer 79 brought its total rentals to $133 million. 0.4. So everybody was going back to see it, and basically it was getting a lot of Saturday afternoon viewers and matinees. So the box office were getting more people on the weekend, but $1 to $2 was generally the normal ticket price, 4 to 5 later on. Now, the film entered overseas release in December 75, and its international business mirrored its domestic performance. It broke records in Singapore, New Zealand, Japan, Spain, and Mexico. On January 11, 76, Jaws became the highest grossing film worldwide with rentals of $132 million, surpassing the $131 million earned by The Godfather. By the time of the third film in 83, Variety reported that it earned worldwide rentals of $270 million. Jaws was the highest grossing film of all time until Star Wars, which debuted 2 years later. So the final gross was $476 million, adjusted for inflation. It would be the $2 billion in 2011 prices, and of course, the second most successful franchise film after Star Wars. In Canada and the States alone, it grossed $265 million, equivalent to $1.2 billion at 2020 prices. Now, the TV release didn't hurt the box office, of course, because it was re-released in 79. The first U.S. broadcast received a Nielsen rating of nearly 40 and attracted nearly 60% of the total audience, the second highest televised movie audience at the time, behind Gone with the Wind, and the fourth highest rated. And of course, it allowed people to tape it because at the time VCRs were going down in price. In the UK, 23 million people watched its inaugural broadcast in October 81, and it was the second biggest British TV audience ever for a feature film, other than Live and Let Die. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jaws itself is a classic in many ways because it's a film noir, it's a horror, sometimes it's a dark comedy. But you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the way it was put all together. The world needed box office, and the United States was coming out of Vietnam. They were going to the movies more often. The kind of what they call new auteur style, although Spielberg was part of it. People wanted a big popcorn movie, and this led to Star Wars. This led to Raiders of the Lost Ark. This led to later on Lord of the Rings, and the sequels were terrible. But the fact was, if you get 10% of the gross or 20%. But the first Jaws, there's a lot of shit going on here. And I don't like Richard Dreyfuss as an actor, but he made it better. Only Richard Dreyfuss could play that character, and Roy Scheider was the only person who could play that character. So the characterizations, and Spielberg was not nominated for Best Director at the Oscars for this. That's one of the biggest tragedies of all time. It's definitely his movie. And you look at Duel with Dennis Weaver, the TV movie, which is kind of a Night Gallery episode, which Spielberg was fired from Night Gallery, not once but twice. But that style he had, you can see it in Jaws. There's a lot going on underneath the surface as well, which is an interesting way to say it because literally and figuratively there was a lot going on beneath the surface. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's how Jaws became a blockbuster. Thank you for your support of Screenshots, our column, our movie column that's existed in New Brunswick for 42 years. We like what we're doing, and if you like it, please come back. If you like our channel, tell your friends. If you don't like it, don't tell nobody. But if you do, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Always appreciate it. And this summer, look twice when you get in the water.